Good morning. Welcome to this special edition of Up with KREM. I'm Tim Pham. We are live in Moscow, Idaho this morning outside of the Latah County Courthouse. Just 6 months ago, the man accused of murdering 4 students was arrested in December. Now this morning, he will face his arraignment in a matter of hours at 9 a.m. This morning, we do have Up with KREM team coverage for you with in-depth coverage taking a look at all angles. Nicole Hernandez is at the King Road home this morning taking a closer look at a timeline of how we got to this point. Meteorologist Thomas Patrick is in the Weather Center taking a look at today's forecast, and Channing Curtis is in the KREM 2 studio with a look at today's top stories. But again, let's get to what's expected to happen in court today. Like we mentioned, the man accused of murdering those students will appear before a judge this morning for his arraignment. That's happening at 9 a.m. And while today will largely center around what's happening in the courtroom, we can't forget today is all about seeking justice for the victims. On November 13th of last year, Ethan Chapin, Xana Kernodle, Kaylee Goncalves, and Madison Mogen were found stabbed to death in an off-campus home. Police arrested Bryan Kohberger 47 days later in Pennsylvania. Investigators connected him to the crime scene through DNA evidence found on a knife sheath left at the crime scene. Last week, we learned a grand jury indicted the suspect on all charges. He now faces 4 first-degree murder charges and 1 count of burglary. This indictment means there is enough evidence for the case to go to a full trial. It also means there will not be a preliminary hearing in June as originally planned. We spoke with a Moscow resident about this case and how people are feeling now.
When the murders happened, people were really alarmed. And we had friends who were worried about going out at night, and they bought extra locks for their doors. But as soon as the guy was captured, the excitement wore down within a few days.
Yeah, definitely different for the Moscow community. There will also be a new judge in the case. His name is Judge John Judge, and as of now, the case is still in Latah County District Court, but it could be moved to another county if the judge thinks there is a better chance of finding an impartial jury. If the suspect enters a plea today, his trial could happen within the next 6 months, or he could waive his right to a speedy trial. A plea also means the 60-day countdown begins for prosecutors to file a notice to seek the death penalty, which of course is a possibility in the state of Idaho. Now, we also know the family of one of the victims, Kaylee Goncalves, will be in the courtroom today. We did speak with the family attorney just a couple of days ago to talk to him about how the family feels about seeing the suspect in court today versus in June.
Once you charge someone with on an information, you're normally a preliminary hearings within a couple of weeks out. And they said 6 months out. You know, and I don't think that really was of, that's hard for a victim's families, for all the victims' families, that's hard.
We do know Ethan Chapin's family will not be in the courtroom today. We haven't heard from Xana Kernodle's family or Madison Mogen's family on if they'll be in the courtroom or not today. And even though the murders happened 6 months ago, so much has happened. This morning, Nicole Hernandez continues our team coverage. She's been covering this case for 6 months, and she's taking a closer look at how we got to this point. Nicole?
So I'm live at the King Road house where police found those 4 University of Idaho students back in November, and 6 months later the house is still boarded up and there's still a memorial for all 4 students. On November 13th, police got a 911 call from the King Road house. When they showed up, they found 4 University of Idaho students dead. The next day, November 14th, police identified the students as Xana Kernodle, Madison Mogen, Kaylee Goncalves, and Ethan Chapin. On November 15th, Moscow PD said the killer used a, quote, edged weapon such as a knife, but that they hadn't found a murder weapon. It wasn't until 2 days later, on November 17th, the Latah County Coroner's Office released the official cause and manner of death. That was the first time officials called the deaths murder by stabbing. On November 18th, we learned more about where the students had been the night of the murders. Then, for weeks, police continued investigating the house. They were also clearing people from the suspect list, like the surviving roommates and people the students had been with that night. Now, December 7th, investigators say they want to talk to the owner of a white Hyundai Elantra that had been near the house the night of the murders. On December 15th, troopers in Indiana pulled over that Hyundai Elantra twice with Bryan Kohberger driving. He and his dad were on their way from WSU to Kohberger's family home in Pennsylvania. On December 30th, police arrest Kohberger in Pennsylvania. So that timeline there, of course, brought us up to the point of police arresting Bryan Kohberger. In the next half hour, though, I'm going over what's happened since the arrest to lead to the arraignment today. In Moscow, Nicole Hernandez, KREM 2 News.
Now, the suspect's arraignment is scheduled to begin at 9 a.m. and KREM 2 will be there in the courtroom. The court is not allowing us to stream it, but we will have a live report right after that arraignment, so we will be able to let you know exactly what happened. In the meantime, for the latest information on this case, you can text us the word Moscow to 509-448-2000, and we'll send you a link to all of our reporting right to your phone. And of course, we'll have more from Tim and Nicole, who are live in Moscow, here coming up later in the show.